Hello friends, welcome back. Hope you are enjoying my video tutorials and learning something new each time. In this series today, I will be teaching you how to choose restriction size for cloning a gene of interest or GOI in a cloning or expression vector. But before we proceed, let's quickly have a look at the answers for the two problems I gave you to solve in my last video on plasmid restriction mapping. Hope you solved them. For the problem number 1, how many restriction sites are present for BAMH1 on this plasmid? Okay, let's look at the gel picture. Both BAMH1 and PST1 produce 2 fragments each. And as we learned earlier, for a circular DNA, number of restriction sites equals to number of fragments. Hence, the answer for this part and the next part will be 2 sites for each enzyme. Let's place these restriction sites on the circular plasmid map like this. For BAMH1, for PST1, and this satisfies our restriction fragment sizes. For the problem number 2, the fragment sizes for the single digestions were calculated first by subtracting KPN1 to KPN1 restriction site locations clockwise on the given gel picture. Hence, 1086 minus 236 base pair will be 850 base pair KPN fragment, which is also the size of XYZ gene. The other KPN fragment size will be 29110 base pair. Similarly, for SAC1 going clockwise, the fragment sizes will be 1338 base pair and 626 base pair, and for the third fragment we can subtract 2654 from total plasmid size, which is 3760, which comes to 1106, and then add 690 base pair till first SAC1 site. Hence the fragment size will be 1796 base pair. For the double digestions going clockwise, starting from 0 position, KPN1 to SAC1 will be 454 base pair, SAC1 to KPN1 will be 396 base pair, KPN1 to SAC1 will be 942 base pair, SAC1 to SAC1 will be 626 base pair, same as single digest, SAC1 to KPN1 will be 1106 base pair added with 236 equals to 1342 base pairs. Now we place them on the gel picture. Size of the gene XYZ will be same as KPN1 fragment size, that is 850 base pair. Okay, after solving these questions, let's begin with recombinant DNA technique basics first. Recombinant DNA is a new combination of 2 or more DNA sequences taken from different sources or organisms. The question is, how do we cut and join 2 different DNA sequences? This process is like a crafts work where we cut 2 different color papers using same scissors and then glue them perfectly as they were one piece only. Similarly, 2 pieces of DNA taken from different sources can be cut by restriction endonucleases or enzymes which act as molecular scissors or molecular knives and cut the phosphodiester bonds between 2 specific bases in a given recognition sequence. Most restriction enzymes produce a sticky or cohesive ends. If these sticky ends come across another complementary sticky ends, they make hydrogen bonds between them and can be glued or ligated by another set of enzymes called ligases. Ligases recreate phosphodiester bonds between both the DNA fragments. The new combination is a recombinant DNA, therefore. The bacterial cells can be transformed with this recombinant DNA and make multiple copies of this DNA, a process called cloning. This recombinant DNA technique can be used for cloning a gene of interest or GOI in a plasmid vector such that the plasmid does not lose its ability to replicate and produce multiple copies of the GOI therefore. However, it is of utmost importance that we determine the restriction maps of the gene of interest and plasmid to choose the correct restriction sites, which will enable us with the recombination process. So let's begin with GOI first. GOI or gene of interest can be obtained by digesting a fragment of DNA. If we know its sequence, we can generate its restriction map using softwares like WebCutter. We generate a table of restriction sites. We can also amplify its sequence from the source DNA using PCR as well. We can also add new restriction sites outside of gene or open reading frame through PCR primers. More on this I will cover in my next topic on PCR and its applications. If we do not know the GOI sequence, we then can choose restriction sites on vector first and use these enzymes to digest the GOI and check on gel to see whether these enzymes cut inside the GOI or outside the GOI. Remember, we cannot use any restriction enzyme which cuts within the GOI. This is the cloning vector PUC18. Here we can clone a GOI in its MCS or multiple cloning site by choosing any one or two restriction enzyme sites present in both the GOI and the vector MCS. Also, there are some bases on either side to attach sequencing primers. Therefore, any GOI or DNA fragment whose sequence is not known to us can be cloned here and its sequencing can be performed. Here in this example, we see a restriction map of a GOI called ABC. PGL2 and NDE1 restriction enzymes cut through the coding part of the gene, shown here in yellow color. So we cannot use these two restriction enzymes for cloning purposes, as our chosen enzyme should not cut the GOI. Next, we see the restriction map of the MCS of a plasmid where we wish to clone this gene. The unique restriction sites of the PUC plasmid have been shown in green. Remember, we have to use same enzymes to cut both GOI and the vector. Here, BGL2 and NDE1 are not present in the MCS. Hence, it is safe to pick any two or one common restriction enzyme sites from the MCS to cut the GOI in vector. For example, either we can clone the ABC gene using only EcoR1 or PSD1 or both. Now a question arises, why we need to choose two restriction enzyme sites if using one can do the job? If we perform double digestion for both the GOI and the vector, it's called the directional cloning. This is the most popular strategy, as if we use only one enzyme to cut both ends of the GOI, it can insert itself into the vector in any of the two orientations shown here. Since both ends can be compatible with cut plasmid, if the cloned DNA fragment is being used for protein expression, then this can cause issues with promoter not being aligned with the start codon. Also, any plasmid cut with only one enzyme can self-ligate and recircularize again without an insert or GOI. Therefore, directional cloning is a good strategy in which we use two non-compatible restriction enzymes like KPN1 and EcoR1 shown here and cut both GOI and the vector with these two enzymes. This will only allow the GOI to insert into the vector in one direction only. Let's talk of expression vectors now. Expression vectors have a few extra features like necessary elements which help the host cell to transcribe and translate the gene of interest. For example, a standard bacterial expression vector PT7 flag 2 is a 4.8 kb E. coli expression vector with a flag epitope sequence which fuses with gene of interest at C-terminal and can be detected after translation using monoclonal anti-flag antibody for affinity binding and purification. Its MCS has a ribosomal binding site or RBS for increased translational efficiency. It also has a PBR322 and F1 origin of replication. Then there is a ampicillin resistance gene as selectable marker, a strong T7 promoter to drive the expression of the GOI, LAC-I and LAC gene fragments for blue-white colony selection, and terminators T1, T2. Whereas a mammalian expression vector such as PEGFP-C1 shown here has a green fluorescent protein or GFP variant which fluoresces in red color. This gene tag fuses in frame with gene of interest ORF as C terminus so that there is no stop codon till the end of the GFP gene, and the protein produced is therefore a fusion protein. Since this vector expresses the GOI in the mammalian cell, it has a Kozak sequence or translational initiation site to increase the translational efficiency. Along with the strong human cytomegalovirus or CMV promoter and enhancer sequence. Is polyadenylation signal, which is an important feature in eukaryotic cells, taken from SV40 virus, is downstream of the EGFP gene, which adds poly-A tail to the 3' end of fusion mRNA. A neomycin resistance gene with SV40 early promoter is to express in mammalian cells and to express kanamycin resistance in E. coli cells. There are SV40 origin of replication for mammalian cells and a PUC origin of replication for E. coli and a F1 origin for single-stranded DNA production. Another poly-A signal from herpes simplex virus HSV's thymidine kinase gene to express in bacterial cells is also added. So these features ensure that a plasmid vector not only can be used for cloning a gene of interest, but also for many other purposes due to these features. Now solve these problems where a gene called Yummy Cakes restriction map has been shown. We will clone it in a PUC vector where MCS has been shown. You have to choose any 2 restriction sites from the vector MCS to clone the gene such that the gene is in correct orientation for using the M13 or PUC sequencing primer, which is number SD100. Post your answers in the comment section and also check with my answers in beginning of my next video. Hopefully you found this topic interesting and this problem was as challenging. Please post your questions and or comments, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. We will meet again with the tutorial on PCR and its applications soon. Till then, thank you and bye-bye.